Hello, good morning, or good day to you. I'm presenting the topic soil, plant, animal interaction, effects and solution of overgrazing in Nigeria. And in this presentation, I'm going to be discussing what is overgrazing, causes of overgrazing, effects of overgrazing in Nigeria, and what can we do to prevent overgrazing. So the first is, what is overgrazing? Overgrazing refers to the feeding of the livestock to the point that there is no vegetation left. That is, if the available resources, which is the feed, is not sufficient for the livestock, and even the livestock eating it all up. So it is not a sustainable way of feeding animals. And these animals then due to this, move to underdeveloped plants without giving enough time to fully mature. So most times you can see the picture of the cows. They graze freely, and after grazing and they don't see anything to eat, they have to move to maybe farms of people to destroy their crops, maybe restricted areas where there are trees, even young trees, the cows or cattle will eat up this. Now, what are the causes of overgrazing? There are three main causes. The first is overstocking. As you can see the first picture, you can see maybe thousands of cattle. As you can see in the ground there, the dome-shaped structures are the residence of the cattle herders. Especially in Nigeria, the Fulani tribe in Nigeria are dominant cattle nomadic farmers, and most times they herd these cattle in their thousands, and they do not have enough places to feed on. Mostly in the north, there are not much grassland compared to the southern part of Nigeria. So you see that there is overstocking. And another point we need to consider that causes overgrazing is drought. Now, as we see in the picture, drought is a situation where there is not sufficient water. So you see in the picture how the soil look like. Over time, the soil will crack because there is no water. And then of course, if there is no water or lack of rainfall, one thing you also notice is that the green vegetation or feeding material that the animals to feed on will become less available. As we recall earlier, these animals are already overstocked. So definitely there will be hunger among the flock. So definitely they will look for alternative ways of making sure they feed. And of course in flood and drought, it's almost impossible. And the third point is improper food management. Now, when a herd of livestock is already overstocked, it becomes very important that there should be proper planning in order to make sure that the food is enough, sufficient food. So both green and then dried food or other supplements should be used. However, in situation whereby the animals are just grazing and there is no plan to replant the grazed areas, there's no plan to get additional sources of feeding, of course, the only source of feeding will be the crops or grasses or trees or young trees that these animals are going to graze on. Now, what are the effects of overgrazing in Nigeria? Now, three major effects. The first is destruction of natural environments. There are many natural environment protected areas that maybe a particular species of trees that need to be nursed or some crops. Most times there's the intrusion. You can see in the picture a young herder holding his AK-47 rifle or his gun, I don't know the type. However, the point is the herders will stop at nothing to make sure they feed their cattle, and it leads to destruction of natural environment, crops of farmers. Most times there's a clash, and then it also leads to soil erosion. because the vegetation cover helps in preventing soil erosion. However, when the vegetation cover is overgrazed and exposed to elements such as heavy rainfall or flood, definitely it's going to erode the soil. And another point is food shortage. Now, how does food shortage comes with the effect of overgrazing in Nigeria? Today, major food producing areas in Nigeria, such as Benue, in the middle part of the middle belt, as it's said in Nigeria, and some other northern parts that produce food are being constantly attacked by these herdsmen. They come in their numbers in the night, burn their houses, leaving these ones to relocate from their villages where they produce food, and they move to maybe peri-urban or urban areas. Of course, they have left that livelihood. It's difficult to go back to farm because of the fear of these armed herdsmen. So most of the time, we see that over time, on the one hand, that is on one hand. On the other hand, you see a situation whereby a crop is about to get matured, maybe maize and then or cassava, then these herdsmen encroach the farm with their cattle and then eat up. So you see that there are two phases. One phase, farmers are scared to go back to their farmlands because their farmlands and their properties, sometimes their families have been killed or burned down. The other part is the fact that farmers are not able to produce food because the cattle will encroach the farms and eat it up. So this, of course, definitely over time will lead to food shortages. Maybe not a national food shortage, but in that community, there's going to be shortage of food. Normally, people who grow their own food will now have to buy it. So it's now the area I'm looking at food shortage. Now, what can we do to prevent overgrazing? Well, to prevent overgrazing, 3 points we have to keep in mind. The first is proper land assessment. Now, we as people who want to do business, cattle business, those who want to do cattle business understand that they need to assess the land, understand what and what will be needed, what capacity, what number of cattle would fit the land first. Second, what amount of food do they need? Because it's then they will now design the farm in such a way there's paddocks, just like shown in the pictures. There are paddocks and the feed is all grown in the farm. They can be, processed. They can be anything. Just stock them in a particular place and bring the food for them. Because if the land is properly assessed, you design where, okay, this is the farmhouse, this is the place the pasture will be grown and all that. You'll be able to sustainably manage the capacity that the land can contain in terms of stocking and in terms of production, feed production. And now, secondly, responsible livestock management. You saw an earlier picture how those cattle look like, and look at this one, they're looking better. Taking cattle up and down grazing on farmlands, overstocking and all that, of course, it will contribute to overgrazing. But however, managing livestock in systems such as this, where they will be in enclosed buildings, within the sustainable range that the feed and all that can be able to contain, will indeed prevent overgrazing. Now the third point I mentioned is farming responsibly. And what do I mean by this? If those who farm these cattle farm responsibly, they will focus on their business, which is to produce cattle maybe for milk or meat. Encroaching on other people's farmland, of course, causes overgrazing. So, but when they farm responsibly and they are on their own farm, just as I showed in the picture, they will definitely prevent overgrazing. Farming responsibly goes a long way to include producing what the cattle are going to eat, or whatever, sheep or goat, but I'm using cattle as a case study, are going to eat, because you are considering the interest of your animals. So you treat your animals right, you give them the right food. You don't take them out in the sun to go to other people's farm. So these are my references. Thank you.